Alien Girl froze in shock as the human took out 3 elite aliens with just a rock. The scorching twin sons of Paraxis, the fourth, beat down mercilessly as Flintstone adjusted his gray steel combat armor, leaving his muscular arms exposed to the blistering heat. His dark hair, tied in a messy bun, was already damp with sweat. The diplomatic mission had seemed straightforward enough: escort the Verdant Confederation's ambassador to negotiations with the notoriously aggressive Paraxian Dominion. "Commander Stone," Ambassador Lurda's melodious voice carried across the landing pad, "are you certain about surrendering our weapons?" Flynn turned to face the green-skinned diplomat. Her elegant black battlesuit hugged her slim figure, and her dark hair danced in the hot winds. Those light green eyes of hers held a mix of concern and curiosity. "Not really," he admitted, stroking his thick beard thoughtfully. "But diplomatic protocol is diplomatic protocol." Beside, he flashed her a roguish grin. "I've got a few tricks up my sleeve, or rather, no sleeve at all." The Pyraxian security detail, hulking reptiloids with crimson scales, collected their weapons with mechanical efficiency. Flynn noticed how their yellow eyes lingered a fraction too long on Lurda. Something felt off, but he couldn't quite put his finger on it. As they approached the negotiation zone, a stark, angular building rising from the rust-colored landscape, Flynn's combat instincts went into overdrive. The security detail had mysteriously vanished, leaving them alone in the courtyard. "Ambassador," he said quietly, "stay close to me." "What's wrong?" Lurda whispered back, her hand brushing against his arm. Before he could answer, 3 figures materialized from hidden alcoves. Their armor bore the distinctive markings of the Shadow Talon Mercenary Guild, elite killers for hire. "Well, well!" The lead assassin's voice crackled through his helmet's speaker. "The Verdant Confederation sent us a lovely gift." Flynn's eyes darted around the courtyard, taking in every detail. There, a fist-sized rock, partially buried in the red soil. "Perfect." "Last chance," the mercenary leader warned. "Surrender the ambassador, and you might live to see another sunrise." Flynn moved with explosive speed, scooping up the rock and hurling it in one fluid motion. It caught the first assassin in the helmet's viewing slot with a satisfying crack. Before the others could react, he was already moving. The second mercenary raised his concealed weapon, but Flynn was faster. He ducked under the aim, grabbed the rock as it bounced off the first assassin's helmet, and brought it down hard on the back of the second killer's head. The third assassin lunged from behind, vibroblade humming. Flynn spun, using the attacker's momentum against him. The rock found its mark again, crushing into the mercenary's chest plate. The impact sent the assassin sprawling, gasping for air. Silence fell over the courtyard, broken only by the groans of the fallen mercenaries. Lurda stood frozen, her mouth slightly open in shock. You just took down 3 elite soldiers with a rock?" Flynn tossed the rock up and caught it casually. "Like I said, tricks up my non-existent sleeve. Now, Ambassador, I suggest we leave before their friends show up." "But the negotiations were never real," he finished, already scanning for escape routes. "This was an assassination attempt. Question is, who wanted you dead badly enough to hire Shadow Talons?" The ancient cave systems beneath Paraxis, the fourth's surface, stretched like a labyrinth of twisted arteries through the planet's crust. Flynn led the way through the narrow passages, his enhanced vision adapting to the dim, bioluminescent fungi that cast an ethereal blue glow across the rough-hewn walls. "They're still following?" Lurda whispered, her breath warm against his bare shoulder. The close quarters forced them to move nearly pressed together, her sleek battlesuit occasionally brushing against his armor. "Good," Flynn replied with a confident smirk. "The deeper we go, the more advantage we have. These tunnels will amplify any sound they make." They paused at an intersection, and Flynn could feel Lurda's eyes studying him intently. The adrenaline from their escape had heightened everything. Every sensation, every breath, every subtle movement between them. "That was incredible," she said softly. "What you did up there. I've never seen anything like it. Just basic human ingenuity." He shrugged, but couldn't help noticing how the blue light played across her green skin, making her seem almost ethereal. "We're pretty good at thinking on our feet. Is that what you call it?" Lurda stepped closer, her voice dropping to an intimate whisper. "Because from where I stood, it looked like pure, primal power, raw, untamed. The air between them crackled with tension. Flynn became acutely aware of her presence. The subtle scent of her skin, like exotic flowers after rain, the way her chest rose and fell with each breath. "Ambassador," he started, his voice rougher than intended. "Lurda," she corrected him. "I think we're well past formalities, Commander Stone." "Flynn," he responded automatically, then caught himself. "We should keep moving. The Paraxian forces are at least half an hour behind us," she finished, placing a hand on his chest. "And I have questions that need answers." The touch sent electricity through his body. "What kind of questions?" "About humans, about you." Her fingers traced the edge of his armor. "Your species is fascinating, so physically powerful, yet so controlled, until you're not." Flynn caught her hand but didn't push it away. "Careful, Ambassador. You're entering dangerous territory." "Good," she breathed, pressing closer. "I like dangerous, especially after watching you take down 3 elite killers with nothing but a rock and raw strength." The distant echo of pursuit snapped them both back to reality. Flynn reluctantly stepped back, though his body protested the movement. "We need to find a secure location," he said, forcing himself to focus. "Somewhere we can rest and plan our next move." Lurda nodded, but her eyes held promises that made his pulse race. They continued through the tunnels, the tension between them building with each step, until they discovered a small chamber off the main passage. Ancient mining equipment lay scattered about, suggesting it had once been a rest area. "This will do," Flynn declared, checking the single entrance. "We can defend it if necessary, and the rock formation will mask our heat signatures." "Speaking of heat," Lourdes said with a meaningful look, "these caves are getting rather warm." She wasn't wrong. The deeper they went, the higher the temperature climbed. Both of them were covered in a fine sheen of sweat, making their close proximity even more charged. "It's the geothermal activity," Flynn explained, trying to maintain his professional demeanor. "Pyraxis the Fourth's core is highly active." "Is that why you're not wearing sleeves?" She ran a finger along his bare arm. "Or is that just to show off these impressive muscles?" Flynn caught her hand again, but this time didn't let go. "You're playing with fire, Lurda." "Maybe I want to burn," she challenged, meeting his gaze. "Maybe I want to understand exactly what makes humans so special." The kiss, when it came, was inevitable as gravity. Lurda's lips were softer than he'd imagined, and slightly cool against his human heat. She pressed against him with an urgency that matched his own, her fingers tangling in his hair as his arms wrapped around her waist. When they finally broke apart, both breathing heavily, Flynn rested his forehead against hers. "This is probably a terrible idea." "Probably," she agreed with a smile. But then, so was taking on 3 elite assassins with a rock. The first sonic blast caught them off guard. Flynn instinctively pulled Lurda behind a massive crystal formation as the cave walls shuddered ominously. "Clever bastard," he muttered, feeling the vibrations through his boots. "They're using resonance weapons, trying to bring the whole system down on us. Can they really be that desperate to kill me?" Lurda pressed against him, her body trembling slightly. Though whether from fear or their lingering intimacy, he couldn't tell. Another blast rocked the cavern. Chunks of ceiling crashed down between them, forcing them apart. Through the falling debris, Flynn caught a glimpse of Lurda's terrified face before the dust cloud obscured everything. "Flynn!" Her voice echoed from the other side of the cave-in. "I'm okay," he shouted back, already searching for a way through. "Stay put. I'll find you." "No!" Her voice was firm, despite the situation. "The tunnels form a loop. There's a junction about half a kilometer ahead. Meet me there." The ground shook again. Flynn cursed, knowing she was right. Staying here would only get them both killed. "Be careful," he called out, then added with a grin she couldn't see. "Don't make me have to save you with another rock." Her laughter, slightly strained but genuine, echoed through the rocks. "Just try to keep up, human." Flynn moved swiftly through the tunnels, his enhanced senses alert for both pursuit and structural weaknesses. The sonic attacks had stopped, but their effects lingered. Small rock falls peppered his path, and the air grew thick with mineral dust. His thoughts kept drifting to Lurda. Their kiss in the cave had awakened something primal in him, something that went beyond mere physical attraction. The way she looked at him after he'd taken down those assassins, not with fear, but with fascination and desire, stirred emotions he hadn't expected. A distant rumble snapped him back to reality. The sound was different this time. Not the focused blast of sonic weapons, but the deeper groan of shifting rock masses. The entire cave system was becoming unstable. Flynn picked up his pace, occasionally having to shoulder through partially collapsed passages. His bare arms were covered in scrapes and dust, but he barely noticed. Every fiber of his being was focused on reaching that junction point. He rounded a bend and froze. 3 Paraxian soldiers blocked his path, their sonic rifles trained on him. Behind them, the tunnel opened into a larger chamber, the junction Lurda had mentioned. "End of the line, human," the lead soldier growled. "Though I must admit, that trick with the rock was impressive. Our superiors are very interested in studying you." Flynn's eyes darted around, assessing. The soldiers were well positioned, their weapons ready. No convenient rocks in sight this time, but then he noticed something they hadn't. Hairline cracks spreading across the ceiling above them, caused by their own sonic weapons. "You know what's really impressive about humans?" Flynn asked casually, slowly raising his hands. "We're really good at learning from example." Before they could react, he slammed his fist into the cave wall. The impact sent vibrations through the weakened rock structure. The Paraxians looked up just as the ceiling gave way. Flynn dove through the falling debris, tucking and rolling past the soldiers as they scattered. He came up running, entering the junction chamber just as Lurda emerged from another tunnel. Their eyes met across the space, and time seemed to slow. Her battlesuit was dusty, her hair wild, but to Flynn she had never looked more beautiful. They moved toward each other as if drawn by magnetic force. They crashed together in the center of the chamber, lips meeting with desperate intensity. Lurda's hands gripped his shoulders while his arms wrapped around her waist, pulling her close. "I heard fighting," she gasped between kisses. "I thought—" "Just some uninvited guess," he murmured against her neck. "Nothing a little improvised geology couldn't handle." She pulled back slightly, her green eyes sparkling. "You used their own sonic weapon effects against them, didn't you?" "Like I said, humans are adaptable." His hands traced the curves of her battlesuit. "Speaking of adaptation," a massive tremor shook the chamber, reminding them of their predicament. Reluctantly, they separated, though their hands remained linked. "The whole system is coming down," Flynn said, scanning the remaining tunnel options. "We need to find a way out." "There's an old mining shaft that leads to the surface," Lurda pointed to one of the passages. "But, Flynn," she pulled him close again, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Once we're safe, I want to learn more about human adaptability." The promise in her voice made his blood surge. "Careful, Ambassador. You might not be ready for all our human traits." "Try me," she challenged, then added with a meaningful look. "After all, if you can take down 3 elite warriors with just a rock, imagine what else you can do." The mining shaft opened onto a nightmare. Stretching before them was the largest military exercise Flynn had ever witnessed. Hundreds of Paraxian troops conducting drills across the barren landscape. Their ship sat tantalizingly visible in the distance, surrounded by patrol units. "Well," Flynn whispered, pulling Lurda back into the shadows of the shaft entrance, "this complicates things." She pressed against him in the confined space, her breath tickling his ear. "Any more rocks handy?" "Funny," he smirked, though his attention was divided between tactical assessment and the intoxicating sensation of her body against his. "Even I can't take on an entire army with geological warfare." "Pity," she purred. "That was quite stimulating to watch." The heat between them built despite their precarious situation. Flynn's hands found her waist, drawing her closer. "Ambassador, your timing for flirtation is terrible." "Or perfect," she countered, trailing a finger down his dust-covered chest. "Nothing quite like danger to sharpen other appetites." A distant explosion interrupted their moment. Part of the military exercise had shifted closer, forcing them deeper into their hiding spot. Flynn used the opportunity to study the patrol patterns while trying to ignore how perfectly Lurda fit against him. "There's a gap in their formation," he noted. "See those cargo haulers? They're creating blind spots in the sensor grid." Lurda hummed, clearly focused on other matters as her hands explored his shoulders. "You're remarkable, you know that. Most species would be paralyzed with fear right now, but you're already plotting our escape." "It's not just me," he said, catching her wandering hands. Humans are survivors. We adapt, we overcome. Speaking of which, he gave her a meaningful look. We need to focus. I am focused, she replied innocently, on several things at once. Another explosion rocked the ground. Closer this time, Flynn noticed something interesting about the troops' reactions. They were maintaining strict formation patterns even during chaos. Their discipline is their weakness, he realized. They're so focused on maintaining perfect order. They're blind to anything that doesn't fit their parameters. Like a human and a verdant ambassador sneaking through their ranks? Exactly, Flynn grinned. We just need to time this perfectly. When the next artillery barrage starts, Lurda silenced him with a kiss that left them both breathless. For luck, she whispered against his lips. They waited for the next series of explosions, then moved. Flynn led them from shadow to shadow, timing their movements with the artillery strikes. His bare arms gleamed with sweat in the harsh sunlight as he pulled Lurda behind cover just before a patrol passed. Their progress was slow but steady. Each near miss with the patrols only seemed to heighten the electric tension between them. Every time they pressed together behind cover, every shared breath in confined spaces, every brush of skin against skin, it all built toward something inevitable. They reached the cargo haulers, using them as cover to approach their ship. That's when things went sideways. A stray artillery shell landed closer than expected, sending troops scrambling in all directions. Their carefully planned route disappeared in the chaos. New plan, Flynn muttered, scanning the area. His eyes landed on a rack of sonic grenades attached to a nearby hauler. How do you feel about making a scene? With you? Lurda's eyes sparkled with anticipation. Always. Flynn moved with fluid grace, snatching the grenades and hurling them in a wide arc. The resulting cascade of sonic bursts created the perfect distraction in perfectly predictable chaos as the Pyraxian troops maintained their formations even while responding to multiple threats. They sprinted for the ship, reaching it just as the first troops began to realize something was wrong. Flynn slammed his palm on the access panel and the hatch opened with a satisfying hiss. Once inside, Lurda pushed him against the wall, her kiss fierce and demanding. That was incredible, she breathed. The way you turned their own weapons against them again. The way you moved. Later, Flynn promised, though his body screamed in protest at the delay. First, we need to… The ship rocked with weapons fire. Right, escape first, everything else later. They reached the cockpit, working in perfect sync, as if they'd been partners for years instead of hours. Flynn piloted while Lurda handled the defensive systems, their movements coordinated like an intimate dance. As they broke atmosphere, leaving the chaos behind, Lurda turned to him with heat in her eyes. You know, my quarters have excellent artificial gravity. Ambassador, Flynn growled, setting the autopilot. Are you trying to seduce me? Trying? She laughed, standing and pulling him up with surprising strength. I think we're well past trying, don't you? The afterglow of their passionate encounter was interrupted by the ship's proximity alarm. Flynn reluctantly disentangled himself from Lurda's embrace, his enhanced senses already alert to the new threat. Someone's following us, he announced, quickly scanning the sensor readings. His bare muscles tensed as he processed the data. 3 Pyraxian pursuit vessels, closing fast. Lurda gracefully rose from the bed, her green skin practically glowing. They shouldn't have been able to track us through the jump point. She moved to the auxiliary console, her battlesuit conforming perfectly as she slipped it back on. Unless… We've been tagged, Flynn finished, already plotting an escape route through the nearby asteroid field. They must have planted a tracker during the military exercise. The ship's computer chimed with an incoming transmission. Priority 1 from the Verdant Confederation. Lurda's eyes widened as she read the message. Flynn, her voice carried an edge of urgency. This goes deeper than we thought. The assassination attempt, it wasn't just about me. According to this, there's a faction within the Confederation itself working with the Pyraxians. Political intrigue and space combat, Flynn grinned, his blood pumping with excitement. Just another day at the office. The first volley of enemy fire streaked past their hull. Flynn executed a perfect barrel roll, using the asteroid field's gravitational dynamics to their advantage. Lurda gripped her console, watching him with undisguised admiration. You're enjoying this, aren't you? She accused, though her smile betrayed her own excitement. What can I say? He winked, threading their ship between two massive rocks. Humans thrive on challenge. Speaking of which, he nodded toward the sensor display. Want to help me lose our tail? Working together, they implemented a daring plan. Flynn piloted deeper into the asteroid field while Lurda calculated precise targeting solutions. They used the ship's mining laser to strategically destabilize several asteroids, creating a cascade of debris that forced their pursuers to break formation. Two ships peeling off, Lurda reported, her fingers dancing across the controls. But the lead vessel is still... Wait. She frowned at a new message. Flynn, you need to see this. The transmission revealed the true scope of the conspiracy. The faction within the Confederation wasn't just working with the Pyraxians. They were planning to trigger an interstellar war, using the attempted assassination of a diplomat as the spark. They're trying to discredit both the humans and the Verdant Confederation, Lurda explained, her voice tight with anger. My death would have been blamed on human incompetence, leading to a convenient excuse to sever all diplomatic ties with Earth, Flynn finished grimly, and probably worse. The pursuing vessel launched another barrage. Flynn responded with a maneuver that should have been impossible, using the gravitational pull of a spinning asteroid to slingshot their ship around, bringing them up behind their pursuer. Lurda stared at him in amazement. How did you... Physics and instinct, he shrugged, though his confident smirk suggested he was quite pleased with her reaction. Humans are pretty good at both. Among other things, she purred, running her hand along his shoulder. Even in the midst of danger, their attraction crackled between them like electric current. The enemy ship tried to shake them, but Flynn stayed right on their tail. Lurda's targeting calculations proved perfect. One precise shot disabled their engines without destroying the vessel. We should retrieve their data core, she suggested. It might contain proof of the conspiracy. Flynn nodded, already plotting an intercept course. Ready to spacewalk with me, Ambassador? After watching you take down 3 elite warriors with a rock, she smiled, I'd follow you anywhere. They suited up, though Flynn insisted on keeping his arms bare even in the spacesuit. Better range of motion, he claimed, though Lurda's appreciative glance suggested she didn't mind the view. The spacewalk was tense but successful. They retrieved not only the data core, but also the tracking device that had been attached to their own ship. Back in their vessel, the evidence painted a damning picture of corruption and conspiracy. We need to get this to the right people, Lurda said, reviewing the files, but the conspirators will have agents watching all the official channels. And then we don't use official channel, Flynn replied, pulling her close. We do this the human way. Improvise, adapt, overcome. She melted into his embrace, their recent intimacy adding new layers to their partnership. You're remarkable, you know that? Most species would be overwhelmed by all this, but you make the impossible look easy. Nothing's impossible, he murmured against her neck. Just improbable. And humans. We specialize in beating the odds. The Grand Diplomatic Gala aboard the Stellar Nexus station provided the perfect cover for their mission. The retrieved data had revealed that the conspirators were planning to meet during the event, a gathering of the galaxy's most influential powers. Flynn adjusted his formal attire, a sleek black suit modified to leave his arms bare, as per his preference. Remind me again why I can't just throw rocks at them? Lurda, resplendent in a flowing emerald gown that complemented her skin tone, straightened his collar with practiced intimacy. Because, my dear human, sometimes the most effective weapon is subtlety. Her fingers lingered on his chest. Though I must admit, watching you solve problems with brute force has its attractions. Their newfound intimacy had transformed their partnership into something deeper, more instinctive. Every touch, every shared glance, carried the weight of their shared experiences and growing bond. The meeting is scheduled for the station's secure diplomatic wing, Lurda continued, consulting the data on her hidden communicator. High Counselor Thex and his Pyraxian counterpart will be there, along with their co-conspirators. And we just happen to have invitations, Flynn grinned, producing 2 expertly forged credentials. Amazing what you can do with a captured data core and human ingenuity. They entered the gala arm in arm, playing their roles perfectly, the distinguished Verdant diplomat and her human security escort. The grand hall sparkled with crystalline chandeliers and floating light sculptures, while representatives from 100 worlds mingled in their finest attire. 3 guards at the entrance to the diplomatic wing, Flynn murmured, scanning the room while leading Lurda in an elegant dance. 2 more patrolling the corridor. Security cameras on a rotating cycle. Lurda hummed, pressing closer than strictly necessary for their dance. Keep talking security protocols to me. It's quite, stimulating. Flynn chuckled, his hand sliding lower on her back. Focus, Ambassador, though I must say, that dress is making it rather difficult. Their playful banter masked their careful surveillance. They identified several of the conspirators through subtle gestures and coded phrases mentioned in the stolen data. The pieces were falling into place. There's our opening, Lurda whispered as a service drone passed by. Ready to create a distraction? Flynn's eyes gleamed with mischief. Darling, causing chaos is what humans do best. With precise timing, they implemented their plan. Flynn accidentally bumped into a Centaurian diplomat, causing a chain reaction that sent drinks flying and tempers flaring. In the ensuing chaos, Lurda slipped a modified data chip into the service drone's maintenance port. They made their way to the diplomatic wing, timing their movements with the security camera rotations. The guards were professionals, but they hadn't counted on human adaptability combined with verdant diplomatic protocols. Ambassador Lurda, one guard straightened as they approached. This area is restricted during the meeting. Of course, she smiled disarmingly. I simply need to retrieve some sensitive documents from my office. Standard diplomatic privilege. While she kept the guards occupied, Flynn palmed a decorative stone from a nearby display. Just in case. The service drone they'd modified chose that moment to malfunction spectacularly, spraying cleaning solution everywhere. The guards turned to deal with the disturbance, giving Flynn and Lurda their chance. They slipped into the diplomatic wing, their hearts racing with more than just adrenaline. The thrill of danger, combined with their intimate connection, created an intoxicating mixture. The meeting room is just ahead, Lurda whispered, pressing against Flynn in the shadows. Once we plant the evidence and broadcast their conversation, the conspiracy falls apart, he finished, stealing a quick kiss. Simple and elegant, just like you. They reached the meeting room just as voices approached from both directions. Trapped in the corridor, they had seconds to react. Flynn pulled Lurda into an alcove, pressing her against the wall as footsteps passed by. Their bodies fit together perfectly, the pretense of hiding becoming something more heated. This is hardly the time, Lurda breathed, though her hands told a different story as they explored his bare arms. Humans are excellent multitaskers, he murmured against her neck, while his enhanced hearing tracked the movement in the corridor. When the way was clear, they reluctantly separated and moved into position. The modified drone had done its work, creating a network breach that allowed them to access the meeting room systems. What they overheard confirmed their worst fears. The conspiracy reached into the highest levels of both governments, with plans to trigger not just a war, but a complete restructuring of galactic power. Humans are too unpredictable, High Counselor Thex was saying. Their very existence threatens the established order. That display with the rock was just the beginning. Flynn and Lurda shared a knowing look. If they only knew what humans were truly capable of. They're here. High Counselor Thex's voice cut through the meeting room's tension. The human and the traitor. Find them. Flynn and Lurda shared a brief, heated glance before security forces flooded the diplomatic wing. The decorative stone in Flynn's hand suddenly felt very familiar. Just like old times? Lurda's eyes sparkled with a mixture of concern and excitement. Better! Flynn grinned, his muscles tensing for action. This time I have you? The first wave of guards burst through the corridor. Flynn's throw was perfect. The stone ricocheted off one guard's helmet, bounced against the wall, and struck another in the chest. Both went down hard. Still impressed, he asked, pulling Lurda behind a pillar as energy weapons fired past them. Always, she purred, pressing against him. Though I'd be more impressed if you got us out of here alive. The station's artificial gravity fluctuated as security protocols activated. Flynn's enhanced senses detected a pattern in the fluctuations, something he could use. Remember what I said about human adaptability? He grabbed Lurda's hand. Trust me. They sprinted down the corridor, Flynn timing their movements with the gravity fluctuations. Each surge helped them leap further, dodge faster, while their pursuers struggled to compensate. The evidence is already transmitted, Lurda reported between breaths. But they'll try to discredit it. Then we'll give them something they can't ignore. Flynn scooped up another decorative stone, this one larger than the first. How's your acting? Understanding dawned in Lurda's eyes. She adjusted her gown, letting it fall provocatively off one shoulder. I'll give them a performance they'll never forget. They burst into the main gala hall, where hundreds of diplomats still mingled. High Counselor Thex and his conspirators followed, weapons drawn, exactly as planned. Help! Lurda's voice carried perfectly across the crowd. The counselor is trying to kill me. Again! All eyes turned to them. Flynn stood protectively in front of Lurda, stone in hand, his bare arms gleaming under the crystalline lights. The scene was perfectly staged. The noble human defender and the threatened ambassador. Lie! Thex snarled. Arrest them both! His guards moved forward, but Flynn was already in motion. The stone flew with deadly accuracy, striking a chandelier's power coupling. The massive fixture crashed down, separating them from their pursuers. That human just attacked us, one of Thex's allies shouted, with a decorative stone. The crowd's murmuring grew louder. Flynn heard snippets of conversation. Just like on Paraxis. Took down 3 elites. With a rock. Your reputation precedes you, Lurda whispered, her hand sliding appreciatively along his arm. Good, Flynn replied, pulling her close as more guards approached. Let's give them a show they'll never forget. What followed was a display of raw human power and ingenuity that would be talked about for years. Flynn used everything at hand, stones, furniture, even the floating light sculptures, turning the elegant gala into a battlefield that showcased humanity's resourcefulness. Lurda wasn't idle either. Her diplomatic training made her the perfect partner, anticipating Flynn's moves and using her status to keep the crowd's sympathy. The counselor tried to have me assassinated, she announced, her voice carrying as Flynn deflected another attack. Because humans prove that his entire philosophy is wrong. We're stronger together, all species working as one. The tide of opinion turned. Other diplomats began recording the scene, especially when Thex lost control and ordered his men to open fire in the crowded hall. Still think humans are too unpredictable? Flynn called out, protecting a group of civilians with an overturned table. At least we don't shoot up diplomatic functions. The station's true security forces finally arrived, but by then the damage was done. The conspirators had revealed themselves in front of the galaxy's most influential witnesses. In the aftermath, as security detained Thex and his allies, Flynn pulled Lurda into a shadowy alcove. The adrenaline of battle still coursed through them both. You're incredible, she breathed, tracing the muscles of his arms. Every time I think I understand what humans are capable of, you surprise me again. We aim to please, he murmured, pulling her closer. Speaking of which, their kiss was electric, charged with the energy of survival and victory. Around them, the diplomatic corps buzzed with excitement, not just about the conspiracy's exposure, but about the implications of human capabilities. They'll be talking about this for years, Lurda said later as they watched the conspirators being led away. The human who saved galactic peace with nothing but rocks and raw courage. And his amazing partner, Flynn added, his hand finding hers. I couldn't have done it without you. We do make quite a team, she agreed, her eyes promising much more than just professional collaboration. The celebration aboard the Stellar Nexus station was interrupted by an urgent alert. Several high-security detention cells had been breached. Thex and his core conspirators had escaped. They're heading for the auxiliary hangar, Flynn announced, studying the security feeds. He'd already stripped off his formal jacket, leaving him in a fitted black shirt with his signature bare arms. And they've taken hostages. Lurda stepped out of her quarters, having changed from her gown into her form-fitting battlesuit. Of course they have. They're desperate now, and desperate beings make mistakes. Speaking of desperate, Flynn pulled her close, his hands tracing the familiar curves of her armor. That was quite a performance earlier. Which part? She teased, her fingers exploring the muscles of his arms. The diplomatic maneuvering, or watching you demonstrate human ingenuity again? Both, he growled, stealing a quick kiss before duty called them back to action. Ready for one last adventure? They moved through the station's maintenance corridors, their intimate knowledge of each other's movements making them a perfect team. The escaped conspirators had sealed off the auxiliary hangar, but they hadn't counted on human resourcefulness or the station's unique architecture. The ventilation system connects to the hangar's environmental controls, Lerda noted, studying the schematics. But the access points are too narrow for both of us. Flynn grinned, picking up a maintenance tool that looked suspiciously like a rock. Then we split up. You take the vents, I'll give them something else to think about. Just don't get too creative, she warned, though her eyes sparkled with anticipation. I've grown rather fond of you. Fond enough to trust a human's crazy plan? After everything we've been through? She pulled him down for a passionate kiss. I trust you with more than just plans. They separated, each taking their position. Flynn could hear Lerda moving through the ventilation system above as he approached the hangar's main entrance. The guards were well-armed but predictable, exactly what he'd come to expect from those who underestimated humans. Remember that human who took down our elite forces with a rock? One guard was saying. I still can't believe. The maintenance tool flew with deadly accuracy, knocking the speaker unconscious. His companion barely had time to raise his weapon before a second throw sent him sprawling. Inside the hangar, Thex and his allies had gathered around a sleek escape vessel. The hostages, a group of junior diplomats, huddled nearby under guard. Your predictability is almost disappointing, Thex called out as Flynn entered. We knew you'd come. Yeah, Flynn stretched his arms casually. Then you know what happens next? Indeed, Thex smiled coldly. We kill you, then use your death to prove how dangerous humans truly are. The hangar's environmental controls suddenly went haywire. Lerda had reached her position. Steam vented from multiple points, creating a disorienting fog. The hostages, recognizing their chance, scattered. Flynn moved like a force of nature. In the chaos, he became everything the conspirators feared about humans. Unpredictable, resourceful, unstoppable. Each thrown object found its mark with devastating precision. Impossible! One of Thex's allies cried as a piece of cargo debris knocked him off his feet. No species can be this adaptable. That's humanity's secret, Lerda's voice rang out as she dropped from above. They don't accept impossible. Working in perfect sync, they systematically dismantled the escape attempt. Flynn's raw power complemented Lerda's tactical precision, their movements flowing together like a deadly dance. The final confrontation came down to Thex himself, cornered against his ship. You don't understand, he snarled. Humans will destroy everything we've built. Their chaos, their unpredictability, is exactly what the galaxy needs, Lerda finished, standing proudly beside Flynn. Not destruction, evolution, growth, change. Like this, Flynn added, picking up one last projectile. The throw was almost casual, but it struck with devastating accuracy. Thex crumpled, his grand conspiracy ending not with a bang, but with a simple rock. Later in Flynn's quarters, they finally had a moment to breathe. The adrenaline of battle had transformed into something more intimate, more primal. You know, Lerda mused, tracing patterns on his chest, when I first saw you take down those assassins with a rock, I thought it was just luck. Now I understand. It's who you are. Who humans are. Oh, Flynn pulled her closer, enjoying the contrast of her green skin against his. And who are we? Survivors, adapters. You take whatever life throws at you and turn it into an advantage. She smiled up at him. It's incredibly attractive. Speaking of attraction, his hands wandered appreciatively. Any other human traits you find interesting? Their laughter turned to sighs as they celebrated their victory in the most primal way possible. Two species, so different yet perfectly matched, proving that the best partnerships transcend all boundaries. 1 year later, the garden world of New Eden hosted the first interspecies cultural exchange, and naturally, Flynn and Lerda were the guests of honor. Their story had become more than just diplomatic legend. It had transformed into a symbol of what humans and aliens could achieve together. Flynn stood at the podium, his customary sleeveless formal attire drawing appreciative glances from various species. Lerda watched from the front row, her green skin complemented by an elegant diplomatic robe that somehow managed to mirror his style. You know the story, he began, his deep voice carrying across the assembled dignitaries. Human meets alien. Alien needs escort. Things go wrong. Human throws rock. The crowd chuckled. The tale had become almost mythical in diplomatic circles. But here's what the stories don't tell you, he continued, his eyes finding Lerda's. They don't tell you how that moment changed everything. Not just because a human took down 3 elite warriors with a rock, though I have to admit, that was pretty impressive. More laughter. In the years since their adventure, the incident had inspired countless retellings, diplomatic analyses, and even a few rather questionable holovid adaptations. It changed everything because it proved what humans have always known. The universe isn't about who has the biggest weapons or the most advanced technology. It's about adaptation, innovation, and most importantly, connection. Lurt rose to join him at the podium, their bodies naturally gravitating together. Their relationship had become as legendary as their exploits. The human warrior and the alien diplomat who proved that love transcends species. In the past year, Lurda addressed the crowd, we've established new protocols for interspecies cooperation. But more than that, we've created something unprecedented, a true partnership between worlds. Their adventures hadn't ended with Thex's conspiracy. If anything, they'd only begun. Each mission brought new challenges, new opportunities to showcase humanity's resourcefulness and alien wisdom's depth. Later, at the celebration reception, they snuck away to their favorite spot in the gardens. The twin moons cast a romantic glow over the exotic flowers, reminding them of their first desperate days together. Remember that cave on Paraxis? Lyrda asked, running her fingers along his bare arms. When I first realized how fascinating humans could be. Fascinating, huh? Flynn pulled her close, his touch igniting the same fire it had the first time. Is that what you call it when I saved us with improvised geology? Among other things, she purred. Their intimacy had only grown stronger with time, each encounter a perfect blend of human passion and alien grace. A shooting star streaked across the sky, reminding them of their latest assignment. Tomorrow they'd head out again, this time to mediate a potential conflict in the Outer Rim. But tonight was for them. You know, Flynn mused, there's still talking about that first rock throw. The Pyraxian Military Academy even added a course on human unconventional tactics. Lurda traced his jaw with delicate fingers. And what do they teach in this course? Mostly that you should never underestimate a human with access to geological materials. He grinned, though they really should add a section about what happens when you pair that human with a brilliant alien diplomat. Their laughter turned to tender kisses under the starlight. They'd faced assassination attempts, political conspiracies, and interstellar crises. But their greatest adventure was simply being together. The legend of their first meeting had evolved into something greater, a testament to the power of unity, adaptation, and love. In diplomatic halls across the galaxy, young officers studied their tactics while secretly dreaming of similar romances. You've started quite a trend, Lurda noted. I heard the human diplomatic corps is getting flooded with applications. Can you blame them? Flynn waggled his eyebrows. Who wouldn't want to find their own gorgeous alien diplomat to protect? She silenced him with a kiss that held promises of adventures yet to come. Their story had become a beacon of hope, proof that the most unlikely partnerships could change the universe. As they made their way back to their quarters, they passed a display case containing a certain famous rock. The placard read, "The stone that changed history, a testament to human ingenuity and interspecies cooperation." They got it wrong, you know, Flynn said softly, pulling Lurda close. Oh, it wasn't the rock that changed history. His eyes met hers with infinite tenderness. It was finding you. Their love had become as legendary as their adventures, a tale told in diplomatic chambers and starship lounges across the galaxy. The human who could take down elite warriors with just a rock, and the alien diplomat who saw past species boundaries to the heart within. Together, they'd proven that the greatest power in the universe wasn't weapons or technology. It was the ability to adapt, to grow, and to love without boundaries.